Welcome to the Experience Darden podcast. I'm your host, Brett Twitty, and you are listening to a new episode. On this episode of the podcast, I'm excited to feature my recent conversation with two second-year students in our class of 2021, Andrew Pinckney and Natasha Pangarkar. Andrew and Natasha are ROMBA fellows, and we recently caught up to talk with them a little bit more about their background, what they did prior to coming to Darden, their decision to pursue an MBA, what led them to become ROMBA fellows, and so much more. So without further ado, here's my interview with Andrew Pinckney and Natasha Pangarkar. Andrew, Natasha, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you so much for taking time out of your schedules. I know it's a busy time of year for you. Great to have you here. Before we kind of get into the meat of the conversation, I want to check in with both of you just to see how things are going. Andrew, how are you doing during this time?
I'm doing well. It's good to be back at Darden. I went to my first hybrid class in person yesterday, and that was exciting to be back on grounds and see people. And it's actually, I think, working really well. So I joined a hybrid class from the virtual side, but I was in the hybrid class from the in-person side yesterday, and it works actually like sort of surprisingly really well. So doing well and glad to be back at Darden.
That's great. We had Tom Steenberg on the podcast to talk a little bit about things from the faculty end, and it sounds like things are up and running and going well. So glad to hear that was your experience. Natasha, how about you? How are you doing?
You know, I'm hanging in there. I think just quarantine has been hard for me, even though I'm an introvert. I really like, talking to my Darden classmates in the hallways. And since my family lives all over the world at this point, I haven't seen them in person for over a year. But it's nice to be in Charlottesville and still see my classmates whenever I have hybrid classes.
I can imagine that sort of extended estrangement would be really, really challenging. So glad you're hanging in there, though, and I'm sure it's probably nice to have school back up and running, so to speak. This is our opportunity to talk a little bit more about your respective backgrounds and how you decided to pursue an MBA, but also want to talk about your roles as ROMBA fellows. But before we get to that part of the conversation, Natasha, I want to start with you. What was your background before Darden? What did you do academically and professionally?
In college, I was actually pre-med, and I double majored in economics and chemistry. I decided medical school wasn't really for me, at least not right away. So I started off as a management consultant working on public sector projects for Booz Allen Hamilton in DC.
All right. And Andrew, how about you? What was your background prior to Darden?
I was an econ major in college, and then I joined Teach for America straight out of undergrad. I was a high school math teacher in Charlotte, North Carolina. Then I did a stint at a hedge fund called Bridgewater outside of New York, learned a lot, and then I wanted to get closer to education again, so I went to work for Pearson Education, which is a large education publishing company, as a product manager, and then came to business school.
So Andrew, is an MBA something you had thought about for a long time? Is it something that occurred to you over the course of the work that you were doing in your career? Curious about your MBA journey.
Yeah, so I'd sort of toyed with the idea for a few years before applying, but really I think realized that I had some really good experiences and interesting and sort of diverse professional experiences, but still felt like I was sort of lacking a strong sort of like business skill tool set. And so I wanted to go to a place. So I knew that I wanted to go to business school, but I particularly wanted to go to a place that really was going to focus on the academics and build a really strong tool set that I could leverage throughout the rest of my career.
Right. And Natasha, how about you? You had mentioned being pre-med through undergrad. How did you decide that an MBA was the path for you?
So my parents are from India, and half is a joke. I guess I'd always considered either law school or medical school. Medical school more seriously. So when I started at Booz Allen, it was supposed to be kind of a short stint while I was still figuring out which direction I wanted to go in. And while I was working there, I realized that A, I really loved the work I was doing, and B, I was actually good at it. And so that kind of led me down the MBA path. But really, that was a development in, I think, about 2 years after I graduated from college. And I applied to Darden right away after that.
And what about Darden specifically resonated with you, Natasha? Was it, always interesting to hear people's stories as to how they ultimately landed on Darden as the place for their MBA education?
I think there were two things. A cousin that I'm really close with is actually a Darden grad from the class of 2016. And he's always been like a big brother. I've always looked up to him, and he loved Darden so much. He would not shut up about it. So that was one of the reasons that I decided to see what the fuss was about with Darden. But I really fell in love with the school when I came to visit for a Showcase Saturday event in 2018. I got to sit in on a case method class, see what that was like in person. And as someone who's always been, pretty academically inclined, and really appreciated getting to know my professors on a personal level, Darden's focus on building competencies and also the close community here were big draws for me.
Did you know much about the case method before you participated in that mock class?
I actually did. I'd never really experienced it before I'd come to Darden, but my father is actually a professor at a business school. So I would sometimes read his cases when I was in high school.
So, all right, more familiar with the case method than say some prospective students, but the opportunity to participate, I imagine, was impactful. It sounds like. Andrew, how about you? What ultimately led you to Darden?
Yeah, so I think sort of like Natasha, I knew people who had gone to Darden. One of my good friends from TFA actually came here straight from Teach for America, and she had a really good experience, built great friendships, built a really strong network, and gotten a really good job after business school. And so I knew about her experience. But then also my husband went to the law school here at UVA. And so I knew Charlottesville really well. I really loved Charlottesville. And so that was also another attraction and draw for me. And then like Natasha, I went to one of those prospective student weekends. And as like a former teacher, I was really impressed with the case method and just felt like this is how I wanted to learn. And especially given like the different professional experiences I've had, like get the ability to sort of apply those experiences to these different cases that we were going to discuss, and also learn from the different experiences of my classmates. So those were what drew me to Darden.
So it sounds like some similarities between the two of you. What was your first year like? I know there's always a lot of focus. I mean, I think about our class of 2022. They're just starting out here on their journey. What was that adjustment like as a first year student, Andrew?
It took some adjusting. I think the first few weeks they felt really intense. Darden takes academics really seriously. And the core experience, I think, is built sort of to be intense. But I really enjoyed it from the get-go. I had a really strong learning team, and I think we bonded really quickly. We also had like a really good diverse set of backgrounds. So we were able to help each other and support each other with the different cases. So I think academically, it was challenging, but really, really good. Natasha and I were actually in the same section. We were in Section A, and we'll be Section A members for life. But I think Section A, we had really good, this is true across Darden, but we had really good professors. So I think from the get-go, I was really impressed with just the caliber of teaching that our professors had. I think we were in our accounting class. You take two accounting classes during core. So in our first accounting class, our professor, Luann Lynch, has been at Darden for I think about 30 years. And I wasn't expecting to love accounting, but I really did, because she's honestly one of the best professors I've ever had. So I think academically it took some adjusting, but I really, really enjoyed it. And then I think socially I felt like very much a part of the Darden community pretty quickly. I think Darden is like very tight knit. I think that the core experience and being in section, I think, helps to build that sense of community. And so very quickly felt like a part of the Darden community.
Perhaps no surprise to you that it's not the first time Luann Lynch has been mentioned on this podcast.
It's not surprising. I'm in one of her classes right now. I'm taking an accounting elective. That's how much I love Luann Lynch.
Very much a beloved faculty member. I'm curious, Section A, what is the mascot for Section A?
The mascot for Section A is a lion. We have, actually, I wonder where the lion is right now. We have a stuffed lion that's like our actual physical mascot. And at the end of classes every day, so at the end of whatever your fourth class is for the day, the person who has the lion selects one person in class to give the lion to based on either like contributions that person made in class, or maybe something they've done for section, some way they've contributed back to the Darden community. And so before everyone leaves class, that person like makes a little announcement, says something about the person, and gives them the lion. But our lion was actually stolen by one of the other sections last year. So that was a lot of drama. I think around this time last year, like late or mid, I guess we're in early September. I think it was around mid-September.
Oh gosh, that did not reach the podcast. I'm somewhat relieved. We have had this sort of like ongoing, one of the ongoing goals of the podcast is sort of sharing this section pride that students have. Because I oftentimes wonder how much prospective students know about this and the fact that there's mascots and colors and all this, obviously the norms that each section establishes. So thank you. I'm sorry to hear about the lion, but thank you for sharing.
We got it back.
Okay, there you go. That's the most important part. Natasha, how about you? What was your first year experience like?
Like Andrew said, I definitely needed to make a lot of adjustments. I don't think I was quite ready for the level of work that core was going to be. And I think before I got to Darden, I was a little in denial about all of the really kind of valuable pre-work exercises that the Career Development Center encourages you to do over the summer. So I felt like I was already behind with recruiting when I got here. That being said, I absolutely loved our professors. I was unfortunately Luann Lynch's first cold call in our section. I don't think that I've ever truly recovered from that. Like Andrew, I also loved my learning team. My learning team was super strong academically, but more than that, they were just unfailingly supportive at every moment. I have actually bawled my eyes out in front of my learning team, and somebody ran and got me water, and they were trying to calm me down after what I felt like was a bad job interview. But settling in socially, I was really lucky to form really strong bonds with a lot of the women in my section, as well as Andrew and other members of Pride at Darden. And I found community really quickly, and that really helped with, feeling a little bit of stress from recruiting and just getting used to a new place.
One of the things that has come up over the course of these conversations is all the intentionality around the first year experience, the way that, students, it's mentioned here, right? This section kind of anchors you. You have a learning team that's also a really immediate touch point. You have all these connections. And of course, there's over 50 student organizations. There's, any number of things you can get involved with. It probably feels like too much at some times. But it sounds like, Natasha, you were able to plug in relatively quickly at Darden. Is that correct?
Oh, definitely. There's so much support everywhere, from your fellow classmates, from your professors. Even now, like professors and I will schedule Zoom calls just to hang out, catch up. How are you doing with the pandemic? Andrew and I became very good friends quite quickly because we were both kind of recruiting in the same circles, and of course, bonded by trying to negotiate the ROMBA conference together. So I was able to find ways to settle in and ground myself at Darden pretty quickly.
Excellent. And so I do want to ask, how was this past summer? I know it was probably a different summer than you had initially imagined it would be. What did you do, Natasha, this summer?
So my summer was a little different than I thought it was going to be. I had an internship with a consulting firm lined up for the summer that was unfortunately shortened because of the pandemic to about 2 weeks, which left me with a question: what do I really want to do over the summer? So I actually found a second internship with a small nonprofit called One Tilt that does a lot of education and consulting work around diversity, equity, and inclusion. And it was kind of the perfect fit, so to speak. It was exactly the kind of social justice work that I'm interested in, but never really had the opportunity to do before.
No, that's great. And obviously One Tilt has a Darden connection, right?
Of course, Kimberly Diaz, who is one of the co-founders of One Tilt, is a Darden alumna, class of 2019, and a proud graduate of PAD as well.
Excellent. And Andrew, how about you? How was your summer?
It was good. I was at Johnson & Johnson working on the Neutrogena innovation team, which was really cool, but I was in Charlottesville, living in my apartment in Ivy Gardens, and my entire team was in Los Angeles. So it was a little bit sad not to get to spend the summer in LA, and it was a little bit challenging to negotiate a 3-hour time difference for a daily job, but it was really good. And I think I was impressed both with the way that Darden pivoted when we had to go online in March because of COVID, but also with the way that J&J was able to still have a very strong internship experience, even though we never actually met any of our colleagues in person.
Let's talk about that March pivot. We've spent a little bit of time here on the podcast talking with students about it. But I'm curious, what was the experience like for you, Andrew? Things shifted pretty quickly there to virtual classes as the pandemic escalated. And what was it like to be on the student end of that experience?
Yeah, so my husband actually lives in DC. He went to law school here and is a lawyer there. And we had just gotten a puppy. So I forewent the typical Darden spring break travel to go home and take care of my puppy. And when we left to go for spring break, we all thought we were coming back to Darden for Q4. And I think about halfway through spring break, they announced that everything would be online for all of Q4. So I ended up staying in DC with my husband and my dog. And I was, I think, a little bit nervous about online learning, especially given that at that point we'd only ever been in core. So we'd only ever been in one classroom with 65 of the exact same people every day. And so I just didn't know what that was going to be like. But I think my initial reaction was that I was impressed both with the faculty's ability to pivot so quickly, and then obviously beyond the faculty, all of the staff that had to work really hard to make that transition happen, and take their classes and put them online over the course of 5 days or something. But then also I was impressed with the Darden student body. I think we did a really good job of showing up online, still participating, making sure that classes were as rich as they could be, given the virtual environment. And I think that was a testament to me of just how strong both the Darden community is, but also how seriously we take our academics and our learning while we're here at Darden.
The thing that has come through in my conversations with faculty about that experience is the partnership aspect of it, right? Mm-hmm. So faculty, can plan and pivot and all this kind of stuff, but students are a really important part of the Darden learning experience, critical to what happens in the classroom, and how, it's always been a partnership here, but faculty were asking students for feedback. What do you like? What can be done better? Mm-hmm. And students, to your point, were really, really showing up. So Natasha, how about for you? What was that pivot like in March, the shift to virtual class?
I think it was just such a shock. I had gone to see The Invisible Man at a theater with a friend. And when we came out, we saw the email saying that our spring travel with Darden had been canceled and that classes were moving online for, I think, a week after spring break was supposed to end. Mm. I don't think that before that I'd really understood the gravity of the situation. So to me, it was really jarring because I said, bye, see you later to my friends after spring break, not realizing that I wouldn't see most of them for half a year. And so it was a bit of a tough adjustment, I think, for me, just because my expectations were that now that we were done with core, we would have so much time to get to know each other and get to know people from other sections, which, we definitely tried to do in a virtual environment. I don't know. I guess I have a hard time articulating just my disappointment with the situation overall, but also my appreciation for everything that the faculty and administration did to smooth the transition. I was really impressed at how quickly all of our professors adapted to the virtual world and virtual classes, and also really impressed with how engaging they were, just because I feel like I'm someone whose attention gets pulled really easily, especially if I'm just supposed to be participating via video call. And I was glad that, several friends and I were able to just make regular appointments to socialize with each other and keep each other sane over the summer and over the course of Q4 as well.
You're right that you have to be more intentional about these kind of social interactions. You lose a bit of the serendipity that you have just when everybody's around each other all the time in person. But it sounds like there's some pretty cool things that were going on around that time that have been sort of just a virtual Darden Cup. We talked with a student who was leading a professor in a playlist, which is sort of like an online like radio station type thing that was started. So some interesting opportunities that sprung up, but understand definitely where both of you are coming, that it was absolutely a change than perhaps what you had imagined for quarter four. So we invited you on the podcast to talk about your roles as ROMBA fellows. Before we kind of get into the specifics of what a ROMBA fellow is, Andrew, what is ROMBA for our prospective listeners, prospective student listeners who may be less familiar with the organization?
Yeah, ROMBA stands for Reaching Out MBA, and it's a nonprofit organization that exists to support LGBTQ MBA students. And they do that through a number of different ways. They have pre-MBA tracks where you can go and actually meet different employers. There is the ROMBA Fellowship, which we'll chat about. Natasha and I are both ROMBA fellows. They have a conference every fall, which was a great experience for both of us, I believe, and a really good recruiting opportunity. And then they do programming also to support LGBTQ clubs. So Natasha and I are both on the board of Pride at Darden, and ROMBA ran a conference in the spring to help the club leaders prepare to lead their LGBTQ clubs at the different business schools across the country.
Excellent. So sounds like a very active, busy organization. Natasha, what attracted you to the ROMBA Fellowship, and what does it mean to be a ROMBA Fellow?
So I remember getting an email from Mark Paolo in admissions about the ROMBA Fellowship. And at first I wasn't sure if I was going to apply, but I really liked the idea of ROMBA fellows as a liaison between the Darden community and, the smaller community of Pride at Darden, and being ambassadors for it. That was something that I really appreciated and thought was really necessary. And so I was really excited when I was chosen for the role. I think the opportunities were really cool, from being really active in Love is Love Week to just advocating for PAD all day, every day. This past year, I was part of an Ask Me Anything panel about coming out stories. And I think it was just such a great way to connect to people who maybe didn't know as much about the LGBTQ plus community, but wanted to come and listen and understand and connect with people who were maybe on their own journeys as well.
Andrew, how about you? What attracted you to the ROMBA Fellow role?
I think it was similar to Natasha. I think I was interested in playing sort of a role between sort of like a liaison role between the Darden community broadly and then the smaller LGBTQ community at Darden. But then sort of selfishly, I was interested in the different resources that ROMBA could provide me. And I think ROMBA is a really fantastic organization. And being part of ROMBA has given me this additional community. So in addition to my Darden community, I also have this broader LGBTQ community of business students, which I think is really, really special. And I've developed some really good friendships, but also just have that sort of broader ROMBA network that I can tap into as well.
It sounds like Pride at Darden has also been an important part of your MBA experience. Andrew, how has that organization enhanced your overall Darden experience?
Yeah, so I think Pride at Darden was really helpful both when I was deciding to come to Darden, so talking to people who were part of Pride at Darden, learning what the LGBTQ community at Darden was like, but then also it was part of that, I think, experience at the beginning of Darden, just to feel like I was supported, and there were people, especially second years, who were able to support me, understood what I was going through, and understood my experience uniquely. And then there were some very specific things that Pride did to help support us as first years. So the first year core experience is obviously very intense, as we've discussed. And there was a second year in Pride at Darden who set up basically like a very intentional recruiting prep plan for all of the participants in Pride at Darden, all the first years in Pride at Darden. And he was really phenomenal. He sort of built this personalized and tailored recruiting prep plan for us. And then there was also support that we got from Pride as we were preparing to go to the ROMBA conference, just to make sure that we were ready to recruit, ready to get the most out of that experience. So I think it was just another community that helped to make me feel welcomed and supported at Darden.
Was that a similar experience for you, Natasha?
Oh, definitely. I loved the second year that Andrew just brought up. I mean, since I was doing consulting recruiting, he sat down for kind of a diagnostic meeting with me and then came up with a plan to help me nail the case interviews. And I really couldn't have done it without him. For me, I really appreciated even the sense of community that we had as first years with each other. And Pride at Darden was a good way of bringing a lot of us together. Even, members of PAD that I didn't think I would be best friends with are some of my closest friends at Darden. And it was nice to have that built-in network of people who understand what you're going through, or people that you can just kind of be yourself around. And so I'm really grateful for everyone from Pride at Darden that I've met in this journey so far.
I imagine that both of you are kind of gearing up for the ROMBA conference that's to come. Natasha, is that right?
That is correct. The ROMBA conference last year was a really great experience. And I think Andrew and I really booked ourselves pretty heavily in networking and company events. Certainly Andrew a little more than me. But I think because of that, we have a lot of wisdom to pass on to the first years coming in. I think in my case, probably the most obvious one is don't always think that you're available at 10:30 and then double book yourself. That's a big no-no. But we're hoping to help get everyone ready in terms of their resume, networking tips, how to just sustain yourself over the course of ROMBA. And I think that will certainly be different over Zoom, but there is such a thing as Zoom fatigue. I am, I think on behalf of the first years, a little disappointed that we won't be able to meet in person because Andrew and my friendship really blossomed over a giant trough of soggy nachos between networking events. But it's a great opportunity to meet out leaders that really want to meet you and want to help you get to their companies. And so I think it should still be a great experience, even if it is virtual.
Yeah, Andrew, I believe this year's conference was going to be in Los Angeles. Is that right?
It was. So I just can't get to LA no matter how hard I try. Yeah, it was.
So all the things that Natasha mentioned, it sounds like y'all have been very busy, but have a lot of wisdom to pass on to the first year students. Anything that particularly stands out that you would want folks to know?
Yeah, I loved the ROMBA conference. It was a great weekend. As Natasha mentioned, it was exhausting. I think I probably had maybe like 14 coffee chats over the course of the weekend and also 2 interviews. But I actually ended up with 2 internship offers coming out of the ROMBA conference, which is, I think, just a testament to how exactly what Natasha was saying, that the companies who go to ROMBA are really specifically looking to recruit LGBTQ talent, and they really want to get you to their companies. So that was a great experience. I ended up accepting one of those offers. So yeah, I think it's a great opportunity to network with lots of different companies. But then, as Natasha mentioned, it's a good opportunity to get a little break from the intensity of core during first year at Darden. It's a different kind of intensity at ROMBA, and really bond with the other LGBTQ members of your first year class. Yeah, Natasha and I definitely bonded over that big bowl that she mentioned after a very long day at ROMBA.
I believe the food in question was, I think, soggy nachos. Did I hear that
very
right?
Soggy nachos, yeah.
So, Andrew, what would you share with our listeners about the LGBTQ plus community at Darden? What would you want folks to know about it?
I would want people to know that it is a very welcoming community. I think that we do a lot to support each other. We care deeply about each other. And I would want people to know that we are looking to grow the LGBTQ community at Darden. Natasha and I care very deeply about that. But I think because it has been historically maybe a sort of smaller component of the Darden community, it is really, I think, a very tight-knit community that supports each other. But really, we do want to expand the LGBT footprint at Darden. And I think this year's a great example of that. I think we doubled the number of LGBTQ students in the first year class as opposed to our class, which is really exciting.
Excellent. Natasha, anything that you would want to share with our listeners out there?
Just that if there is a gay agenda, our gay agenda is to try to get as many LGBTQ folks to Darden. And that we're really trying to build in some programs as we're going along and leave some infrastructure for this first year class that will take over after we graduate. So I'm spearheading part of what we're calling PAD Buddies, which is basically just an emotional support second year who understands what you're going through, probably recruited for a similar industry, but is really just there for the first years to talk to, vent to, ask for advice. So we're really excited to get to know this first year class. And as Andrew mentioned, it is twice the size of our class. And that's a really encouraging sign.
Yeah, I was going to ask. So you've got the Buddies program that you're working on. Any other things that are kind of in the works related to leaving this kind of legacy or sort of lasting impact? Natasha?
Andrew is taking the lead on how to network at ROMBA and make the most of your time at ROMBA. A lot of us are focused on how do we bring PADS programming virtual in a way that's effective. The drag show is the most attended event at Darden, but obviously moving it online would be a huge shift. So we're currently figuring out how to do that, but I think it'll be a good plan to have in place. Andrew, is there anything that I'm missing?
I think last year, the way that PAD built community was sort of, there wasn't as much thought put into it as I think we would like. So I think we're trying to build in some like structures for regular community. So like a optional Sunday event on a weekly basis where first years and second years can just go and hang out in an event that doesn't really necessarily have much of an agenda. So it's not like a recruiting event or a recruiting prep event or anything like that. So just trying to make sure that we have structures to build the sort of like informal community, especially between first years and second years, because I think that's the harder relationship to try to build.
It seems like a relationship, though, that can have quite a bit of impact. We've talked with second year coaches, and it seems like all the career oriented clubs, second years play a really important role in helping first years prepare for interviews and kind of to know what maybe something career in finance or consulting or these other pathways look like. So it sounds like an important relationship, at least here in the conversations that we've had on the podcast.
Yes. Yeah, definitely.
So Andrew, what are you looking forward to in the months to come? I recognize you're just kind of getting started here with the fall semester. Anything that you're excited about or are looking forward to?
I think Charlottesville is its best in the fall. So I think I'm looking forward to being in Charlottesville over the fall. I also think Charlottesville is not a bad place to be during a pandemic. There's lots of opportunities to do outdoor activities. So I think I'm looking forward to some small group outdoor social events with the first year Pride at Darden members. I think I'm definitely looking forward to ROMBA, even though it will be a different experience. And honestly, I'm looking forward to my classes. I think it's fun as a second year to get to select the classes that you want to take and build on all of the skills and knowledge that you acquired during core. So that's been really exciting.
So you'd mentioned an accounting elective earlier. What else are you taking?
I am in a pricing class that Natasha's also in. I'm in a data science class. What else am I in? I am in a general management class, and then I'm also a second year coach, which you actually do get credit for doing.
All right. And Natasha, how about you? What are you looking forward to in the coming months?
I'm really looking forward to getting to know people a bit better. I pitched an idea for a social event to one of my friends on the GWIB board. So GWIB is Graduate Women in Business. And so we had a speed dating style event where you stood 6 feet apart from someone with your mask on and just got to know them a little bit better. And we had prompts and envelopes. It's not as awkward as I thought it was going to be, just reaching out to classmates that I think have made really insightful points and trying to get some time on their on their calendars to have a short Zoom call and get to know each other. And that's been really exciting. I'm really excited to get to know some of the PAD first years as well. And of course, classes are great. Really excited to be assigned some first years to coach as part of the second year coaching program, which Andrew is also doing. And I'm also on the second year student admissions committee. So I'm really looking forward to my first independent interview for that.
Well, y'all have quite a bit on your respective plates, not slowing down in second year at all.
I think I thought that I would have more time in second year, but I don't think that I do. I think I'm almost as busy as I was during core.
I mean, I hope I can speak for Andrew here, but I don't think either of us is the type to really, want to take naps in the afternoon. So I like to keep busy.
Understood, and certainly living that creed. What attracted the two of you to be second year coaches? I'm curious, Natasha. What about that opportunity, appealed to you?
I had a pretty great relationship with my second year coach because I was coming from a management consulting background and wanted to recruit for management consulting. I think for me, he got the balance right between letting me know that he was there and answering any questions that I had, responding to my emails quickly, but also giving me the space to explore on my own. And so I really wanted to be there for the first years, the way that my second year coach and the way that, my second year mentor from Pride at Darden had been there for me. So I know that recruiting can be kind of an overwhelming time. And I think especially now, because we've never had to do Zoom networking or figure out what Zoom networking tips might be the most effective. But, this is our new reality. And I just want to make sure that the first year class feels really supported going into this recruiting season.
Andrew, how about you? What attracted you to be a second year coach?
It's actually, I think, almost exactly the same thing that attracted Natasha. I had a phenomenal second year coach. He was really incredible. He did a very good job of supporting me and pushing me and helping me prepare for interviews, but also make sure that I knew exactly what I wanted, what my story was going to be. And so I wanted to be able to play the role that he played for me for first year students.
All right. Well, as we wrap up here, we always ask our listeners, our guests, the same final question. Any words of advice for the prospective students out there listening to this podcast episode? Andrew, anything that you would share with our prospective students?
I would just say that I think Darden cares a lot about you as an entire person, and so don't forget about all the other parts of you when you are thinking about applying to Darden or in a Darden interview. Darden really cares about you holistically. So think about all the things about you that are unique and interesting and the different things that you care about beyond the things that might seem like what a business school would care about.
That is very good advice and resonates a lot with what we share as an admissions committee. Obviously thinking a lot about that learning experience in class, but also what happens outside of class. I think y'all have done a great job in this conversation today to talk about all the things that students do in addition to just being on a learning team, participating in a case discussion, many ways that students have impact. Natasha, how about for you? What would you highlight for our prospective student listeners? What would you share?
I guess I want to speak more to kind of students that might feel like business school isn't from them, those that don't come from typical backgrounds or identify as LGBT. Maybe they identify as a woman. Maybe they identify as as someone from a marginalized community. What I want to say is that Darden students want to listen and want to learn from you. And I think that is much more powerful and ultimately much better for you to be able to have those conversations with people, one, but also be surrounded by people that will listen to your perspective and internalize that versus people who think that they already know everything about your experience. So if you're debating Darden, wondering whether it's the right fit for you, please get in touch with us. I would love to talk to you more.
All right. Well, thank you both for taking time out for the podcast. It's great to have this time with you. And I so appreciate your coming on and sharing more about your experience and being so generous with your time during what's obviously a really busy time of the school year. So Andrew, Natasha, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And that was my interview with Andrew Pinckney and Natasha Pangarkar, 2 second-year students in our class of 2021. As always, if you have any comments, suggestions, requests, anything you'd like for us to cover here on the podcast, we're all ears. We can be reached at Darden, that's DARDEN, @virginia.edu. And until next time, stay safe, be well, and thanks for listening.